Hale already had the wedding microphone when Nadine Kora realized the cruelty was planned. He pointed at the woman who had loved him for 5 years and called her too fat for the future he wanted. Then he reached for Vanessa, the slim bridesmaid. Before Vanessa could move, Kang Taeho rose from the darkest table, crossed the marble floor, and took Nadine's hand. Every phone in the ballroom turned toward them. Marcus laughed as though Taeho had made a joke. Taeho did not even look at him. His fingers closed firmly around Nadine's trembling hand, warm and controlled. You rejected the only woman in this room powerful enough to destroy you. Nadine's heart struck hard against her ribs. Taeho leaned close enough for only her to hear. Keep smiling. Someone behind the curtain is aiming at you. The champagne glass beside Nadine's elbow exploded. Taeho pulled her against his chest and drove them behind the bridal table as crystals scattered across the white cloth. Screams ripped through the ballroom. Chairs overturned, the chandeliers died at once. In the darkness, a hand seized Nadine's clutch and yanked. She held on with both hands, drove her heel down, and heard a man hiss beside her ear. That drive should never have left your mother's office. The emergency lights flashed red. The attacker was gone, but Nadine still had the clutch pressed to her body. Taeho crouched beside her, one arm shielding her as his eyes searched the curtain line. Across the room, Victor Han remained seated while everyone else panicked. He looked almost bored. Nadine noticed that. So did Taeho. Then Marcus climbed onto the low stage and raised the microphone again, using terror as though it were another item on the wedding program. She staged this, Marcus shouted. Nadine stole $8 million from Kora Events, and now she wants sympathy. The ballroom screen lit with banking records carrying Nadine's signature. Guests who had screamed seconds earlier lifted their phones again. Shame and fury burned through her so quickly she could barely breathe. The documents were edited, but only someone with senior access could have created them. Taeho ordered Park Minho to seal the hotel, then pulled Nadine toward the service corridor. Before Nadine takes another step into this hotel, subscribe to Afro Korean Soulmates TV if stories about women who are publicly humiliated but refuse to disappear are why you are here. Your subscription tells us this work is landing and helps us keep bringing you premium stories where the woman everyone underestimated becomes the one nobody can control. Before Nadine reached the door, Vanessa stepped into their path. Her perfect bridesmaid smile was gone. A bruise darkened one wrist. Nadine expected another insult, but Vanessa caught her hand and pressed a wet keycard into her palm. Blood streaked its edge. Room 1708, Vanessa whispered. Your mother left something there. And whatever happens, do not trust the man holding your other hand. Taeho saw the card, and the calm vanished from his face. Give it to me. Taeho's voice stayed low, but the command inside it was unmistakable. Nadine closed her fist. You knew someone was aiming at me. You knew my mother left evidence here. You do not get one more thing until you start answering questions. Marcus appeared behind Vanessa and clamped a hand around her wrist. Vanessa flinched. Before Nadine could reach her, Marcus dragged her back toward the ballroom and the frightened crowd swallowed them both. Minho was supposed to be waiting beside the private elevator. He was not there. His brushed steel watch lay alone on the polished floor, its glass cracked, fresh blood crossing the face while the second hand continued to move. Taeho picked it up and checked the access panel. A valid Kang family code had opened the elevator less than a minute earlier. Nadine stared at him. So the person hunting me belongs to your family. Before Taeho answered, the elevator doors opened by themselves. The cabin was empty. No Minho, no security team. Only a faint smear of blood leading toward the control panel. Taeho guided Nadine inside without releasing her hand. The doors closed, and the elevator began descending without either of them touching a button. The floor display stopped at 17. Nadine looked at the bloodied card in her fist. Room 1708 was waiting on that floor. Her phone vibrated. The message came from an unknown number. Your mother begged him not to bring you here. Nadine read it twice before Taeho reached for the device. Do not open anything else. She pulled it away. How did you know there would be another message? His jaw tightened. He had no answer. The elevator lights flickered, the cabin shuddered, and something heavy struck the roof above them. Nadine looked up as the metal began to bend inward. The dent in the ceiling deepened. Taeho shoved Nadine behind him as the emergency hatch snapped open and a black-gloved hand reached through. He caught the wrist, twisted hard, and slammed it against the metal frame. The attacker released a small electronic device that clattered beside Nadine's shoe. Taeho crushed it beneath his heel. The elevator lurched violently, dropping half a floor before the emergency brakes screamed into place. Taeho forced his fingers between the doors and pulled until a narrow gap appeared. Nadine squeezed through first, clutch and keycard pinned against her chest. He followed as the elevator shuttered behind them. They had emerged between floors into a restricted corridor with no hotel staff, no cameras, and no Minho. Taeho moved her into a fortified suite and locked 3 separate bolts. Nadine watched him test every entrance before he finally turned toward her. The drive, the keycard, and the ring. Nadine looked down at the black onyx stone on her finger. Taeho's attention had fixed on it before he mentioned anything else. "My father gave me this." "I know." Those 2 words chilled her more than the attack. Taeho stepped closer, but stopped when she raised her hand. Inside the ring, beneath years of scratches, were 3 tiny marks she had never noticed. Taeho wore the same marks on his signet ring. Taeho told her Mara Kora had saved his life 12 years earlier, then vanished after ordering Taeho to watch the Kora accounts. If the dormant transfers ever began again, Nadine would become a target. "You have been watching me. Protecting you." Protection does not hide behind tinted windows. His eyes hardened because she was right. He admitted he knew she would attend the wedding. He also knew Marcus planned to take the microphone, but refused to explain why he had allowed it. Celeste's name flashed across Nadine's phone. Taeho wanted the call on speaker. Nadine answered without asking his permission. Celeste was whispering from somewhere small and locked. She apologized for keeping Nadine at the wedding after learning Marcus intended to humiliate her. Victor had threatened her new husband and ordered her to keep the ceremony moving until Marcus finished. Nadine closed her eyes. Another friend had known. Another person had watched her walk into the room without warning her. A muffled cry sounded behind Celeste. Nadine recognized Vanessa's voice. "Where is she?" Celeste started to answer, but Victor spoke somewhere near the phone. He ordered someone to remove the cameras and search Vanessa again. The line filled with scraping, a sharp breath, then nothing. Taeho reached for his coat. "We are leaving." Nadine stepped between him and the door. Vanessa had risked enough to pass her the key card. Nadine would not abandon her because Taeho disliked the odds. "Compassion is how traps invite you inside," Taeho warned. "Control is how men convince themselves they are not the trap." For a second, anger flashed in his eyes. Then something quieter replaced it. Respect, perhaps, or the realization that she would never become obedient simply because he frightened everyone else. Nadine held up the blood-stained card. Room 1708 was 2 corridors away. She told him she was going with or without him. Taeho unlocked the door and moved first. They entered the maintenance passage behind the suite wall. Taeho kept one hand near Nadine's shoulder without touching her, guiding her around exposed pipes and dark service panels. At the end, a narrow access door opened behind the wardrobe in room 1708. The room smelled of spilled champagne and hot electrical wiring. One chair lay overturned. The wall safe stood open. A woman's bare foot extended from behind the bed. Nadine rushed forward before Taeho could stop her. Vanessa was conscious, but one side of her face had begun to swell. Her champagne gown was torn at the hem, and dried blood marked her wrist. Nadine knelt beside her while Taeho checked the room. "I did not choose Marcus," Vanessa whispered. "Victor chose him for me." Victor had threatened Vanessa's younger sister. He ordered her to accept Marcus publicly, stay close, and steal whatever Nadine carried. Vanessa had pretended to obey until she could take Marcus's access card. The blood on the key card belonged to Vanessa. Marcus had caught her removing it from his jacket before the speeches, and crushed her wrist against a service door. She still managed to reach Nadine. "Why warn me about Taeho?" Vanessa looked past Nadine toward him. "Because Marcus rehearsed every word. The insult, the proposal, even the moment he would point at your dress. Someone paid him to make you feel completely alone." Taeho's expression revealed nothing, which frightened Nadine more than denial. Inside the safe, Nadine found a second drive wrapped in her mother's silk scarf. Beneath it lay an old photograph. Mara Kora stood beside Elias. Sora Kang stood on the other side, younger but unmistakable. Between them was Taeho, barely more than a teenager, wearing the same black onyx ring. Nadine studied the image until the faces blurred. Her parents had not merely encountered the Kang family, they had known them closely enough to stand together without fear, at least, without visible fear. Vanessa said Marcus received the mystery payment 3 weeks before the wedding. After that, he became obsessed with keeping Nadine on the guest list and ensuring she stood near the head table. He never told Vanessa who paid him. Taeho took one step toward the photograph. Nadine lifted it away from him. "Do not touch it." The wound in her voice stopped him. Behind his control, guilt appeared so quickly she nearly missed it. The second drive activated when Nadine connected it to the room console. Mara appeared on the screen 6 years younger, standing in this same room. Sora faced her beside the open safe. "You used my company to move blood money," Mara said. "It ends tonight." Sora did not raise her voice. She demanded permanent control of Kora Events' international accounts and promised Elias would remain hidden if Mara cooperated. Mara refused. She said she had copied enough evidence to destroy every Kang operation connected to the company. The recorded door opened. A younger Taeho entered. Mara's courage vanished so quickly Nadine felt it in her own body. Her mother stepped back and whispered Taeho's name like a warning. The footage froze before he could speak, then jumped to an empty room 11 minutes later. Nadine turned from the screen. "You were here the night she died." Taeho did not insult her with a denial. He said he came to take Mara somewhere safe. He claimed she was alive when he left. Vanessa examined the corrupted file and found the missing section had not failed naturally. Someone removed exactly 11 minutes with Taeho's private encryption key. Nadine's throat tightened. Only you had that key. Someone copied it. That is what every guilty man says when the evidence remembers him. Taeho absorbed the accusation without moving. He looked toward Mara's frozen face instead of defending himself. For the first time since the ballroom, Nadine saw fear in him. It was not fear of death, it was fear of what she might learn. Nadine replayed the final intact seconds. Mara's eyes moved towards something beyond the camera just before Taeho entered. Her fingers touched the black onyx pendant at her throat twice. It was an old signal from Nadine's childhood. Danger is inside the room. Mara had not been warning the camera about Taeho's arrival. She had been warning whoever would eventually watch the recording that someone else was already present. Nadine paused the image on a thin reflection inside the safe door. A man's burgundy sleeve was visible. Victor had worn burgundy at the wedding. Taeho studied the reflection and said Victor had served Sora long before he became a respectable businessman. If Victor was inside the room, he could have copied Taeho's key and removed the footage. Nadine wanted to believe that possibility. Wanting it made her angry. A video call suddenly filled the screen. Sora sat beneath cold white light, perfectly composed. She greeted Nadine by name, then asked whether Taeho had already told her how much her freedom was worth. Sora offered to restore the missing $8 million, clear Nadine publicly, and guarantee Vanessa's sister would survive. In exchange, Nadine had to surrender both drives, remove the onyx ring, and walk away from Taeho before sunrise. Why should leaving him matter to you? Sora smiled without warmth. Because he has confused possession with loyalty. She sent a folder to Nadine's phone. It contained surveillance photographs from outside Nadine's apartment, office, bank, and every meeting connected to her investigation. The photographs covered 4 months. Taeho appeared in several backgrounds. In others, Minho's vehicle waited across the street. One image showed Taeho watching Nadine through the rain while she stood alone after Marcus refused to meet her. Sora said he had studied her routines, her loneliness, and the people she still trusted. She claimed the wedding rescue was designed to make Nadine accept the one man who had already surrounded her life. Nadine looked at Taeho. "Tell me she is lying." He did not. Taeho ended the call before Sora could continue. Nadine moved onto the balcony, needing cold air and distance from him. Seoul glittered below, as though nothing inside the hotel mattered. He followed, but stopped several feet away. Nadine asked how many times he had watched her cry without revealing himself. 3. The honesty hurt worse than a lie. He said Elias had warned him that the reopened accounts would draw Sora, Victor, and anyone who believed Nadine carried her parents' evidence. Taeho admitted the first surveillance photograph was taken after Nadine accessed a dormant Kora account. He had intended to approach her, but Marcus was still living in her apartment then. "You decided I would trust him more than you." "You did. And that offended you?" His gaze remained on the skyline. "It terrified me." The confession was too exposed to sound rehearsed. Nadine felt the dangerous pull between them again, but she refused to let attraction turn unanswered questions into forgiveness. Nadine asked the question he had avoided since the ballroom. Did you pay Marcus? Taeho's eyes returned to hers. Wind moved the loose curls at her temples and carried the faint scent of smoke from the city below. Before he answered, the sweet door alarm flashed. Someone had entered the service stairwell using Taeho's active security token. Taeho drew Nadine behind the concrete balcony wall and signaled Vanessa to stay low inside. 3 slow knocks sounded from the secured door. The photographs had changed the question from whether Taeho was hiding something to how much of Nadine's life he had already touched. While she decides whether the man who saved her also engineered her pain, tell us where you are watching from and what time it is there. Then leave one emoji that captures the person you trust least right now. The answer may change before the next door opens. Taeho opened the door with one hand while shielding Nadine with the other. Minho collapsed across the threshold. Blood had dried near his temple, and one sleeve was torn, but he was conscious. Vanessa helped drag him inside. Minho said Victor's men ambushed him in the elevator control room. They carried a valid Kang access code, one linked to Sora's office. The physical authorization, however, had come from Taeho's device. Nadine watched Taeho's face. He looked surprised. Minho looked unconvinced. Minho had traced the breach before they took his watch. Victor planned to erase the original Kora records before sunrise, then transfer the missing funds beyond recovery. Taeho ordered a vehicle prepared. Nadine asked Minho whether he believed Sora had copied Taeho's authorization. Minho hesitated for half a second. It was enough. I believe someone wants us to think the answer is simple. Taeho glanced at him sharply. Their loyalty remained intact, but trust had developed a visible crack. Taeho handed Nadine his unlocked phone. Search it. She opened messages, financial apps, and encrypted folders. Nothing linked him to the attack. Then she found a calendar entry created 3 weeks earlier. Rowan wedding. Marcus confirmation. An attachment sat beneath it. Nadine touched the screen, but Taeho took the phone from her before it opened. The movement was quick, instinctive, and damning. That is not protection, she said. That is panic. He told Minho to move Vanessa and prepare the stairwell. They reached the bridal preparation suite through a service landing. Celeste stood barefoot beside the dressing table, her wedding veil gone and mascara streaked beneath her eyes. She raised both hands when Nadine entered. I knew about the speech, she confessed. I did not know about the attack. Victor had threatened to kill her husband if she warned Nadine or stopped the ceremony. He demanded that Nadine remain beside the head table until Marcus finished. Nadine's anger came first. Her understanding followed more slowly. Celeste opened a garment cabinet and removed a decorative wedding case. She had copied the suspicious Kora records before Victor locked her out of the hotel system. She hid them inside the case because every camera showed bridesmaids carrying identical boxes. I should have told you. You should have trusted me enough to let me choose the danger. Celeste's face crumpled. Nadine wanted to forgive her, but forgiveness could not be used to erase the choice she had made. The copied records showed payments from Marcus and Victor into a hidden project called Kora Recovery. Nearly all of the missing $8 million had funded private investigators, border searches, medical databases, and safe houses across 12 countries. The operation had begun 12 years earlier. It was not a theft built for luxury. It was a search. Nadine's pulse thudded in her throat as she opened the most recent transaction. It had been authorized 48 hours ago under a biometric identity belonging to Elias Kora. Her father was not only alive, someone had found him. Celeste remembered Marcus celebrating after receiving a private payment from a Korean account 3 weeks before the wedding. He told her the payment would finally make Nadine useful. Taeho went completely still. Nadine asked whether the account belonged to him. Before he could answer, every mirror light in the suite turned red. Victor's voice entered through the hotel speakers, calm and amused. He announced that Nadine had kidnapped Vanessa and murdered a member of hotel security. Victor released edited footage online while they watched. It showed Nadine entering the corridor with Vanessa, then cut to a blood stain and an empty elevator. The missing seconds made rescue look like abduction. Outside the suite, security boots filled the stairwell. Taeho proposed forcing a path through the lobby. Nadine rejected it. The hotel had hosted her company's events for years. She knew the kitchens, freight corridors, and fire systems better than Victor's borrowed guards. For the first time that night, Taeho followed her without argument. Nadine led them through the banquet kitchen, where stainless counters reflected the red emergency lights. Minho supported Vanessa, while Taeho covered the rear. Celeste stayed behind to delay security and protect her husband. Victor spoke through another ceiling speaker. He offered Vanessa freedom and her sister's safety if she surrendered the drives. Vanessa looked at Nadine, then deliberately dropped Marcus's stolen access card into a pot of boiling water. Tell Victor he chose the wrong bridesmaid. Even Taeho almost smiled. Security entered from the far service door. Nadine shoved a loaded catering cart across the wet floor, blocking the narrow aisle long enough for the group to reach the loading corridor. A guard caught Vanessa's torn skirt. Minho struck his arm away and pulled her free. Taeho stayed between Nadine and the pursuing men, but she refused to remain behind him. She used a serving tray to smash the emergency glass over the fire controls. The alarm began, but the loading exit remained locked. Nadine remembered the system's second safeguard. During a confirmed kitchen fire, the magnetic freight doors released only after the ventilation dampers opened. She climbed onto a preparation counter and pulled the manual lever. Hot air roared through the ceiling ducts. The loading door clicked. Victor's guards were less than 10 steps away. Taeho caught Nadine around the waist as she jumped down, set her firmly on the floor, and pushed the door open with his shoulder. The contact lasted 1 second. It still changed the air between them. They reached the armored vehicle as rain began striking the loading bay. Minho locked the doors while Taeho took the seat opposite Nadine. Vanessa pressed cloth around her injured wrist. The hotel receded behind them. For several minutes, no one spoke. Nadine watched the city lights slide over Taeho's face and wondered how a man could look like safety while carrying so many secrets. The Kora archive facility was 20 minutes away. Before they arrived, she intended to force out at least one truth. Nadine placed Taeho's calendar entry between them on the phone screen. "Did you arrange what Marcus did?" Taeho looked at the dark glass instead of her. He said the answer could not be separated from what happened to Mara. "That is not an answer. It is the only one I can give without putting her in greater danger." Nadine's breath caught. He had spoken about her mother in the present tense. Vanessa noticed it too. Taeho realized his mistake, but the words could not be pulled back. Nadine demanded to know whether Mara was alive. Taeho said he did not know where she was now. 6 years earlier, he had helped her escape room 1708. By morning, the vehicle carrying her had vanished and his driver was dead. He had spent years searching. "You watched me mourn her while you knew she survived that night. I knew hope could make you easier to control." "Whose control?" His answer came quietly. "Mine, if I failed. Sora's, if I told you." The admission should have ended whatever fragile connection existed between them. Instead, Taeho looked stripped of the authority he wore so naturally. "I have cared about you longer than you realize," he said. Nadine's laugh held no humor. "Watching me through windows is not love. Choosing what truth I can survive is not love." "I know." That answer unsettled her because he did not defend himself. Vanessa interrupted before the moment could become dangerous. She had opened the account behind Kora Recovery. The search fund belonged to a Kang shell company requiring 2 approvals. One was Sora's, the other was Taeho's. He admitted financing the search for Elias, but claimed Sora used the same project to find him first. Every payment became a race between them. The archive facility appeared through the rain, a black concrete structure beyond locked gates. Minho slowed the vehicle. A security light changed from amber to green before anyone entered a code. Someone inside was already expecting them. The archive doors opened without resistance. That frightened Nadine more than alarms would have. Inside, black server towers stretched beneath narrow amber lights. The building belonged to Kora Events on paper, but Taeho recognized Kang security architecture hidden in the walls. Nadine used Celeste's copied records to unlock the central station. The file showed Elias entered protective hiding 12 years earlier after discovering the laundering network. His death certificate had been created 3 days after his final verified border crossing. There had never been a body. The deeper files revealed Mara communicated with Elias for 6 years through coded event invoices. Every floral order, venue deposit, and catering adjustment carried fragments of coordinates. Then Nadine found a message sent from Mara's account 2 months after her official death. "I kept our daughter outside the bargain. Do not let Taeho bring her back into it." Nadine read the sentence aloud. Taeho closed his eyes. The message proved Mara survived, and it proved Nadine had been part of an agreement long before the wedding. A live location file opened beneath Elias's profile. It showed recent access from somewhere connected to the archive's private network. Nadine followed the signal through the server map. It did not lead across the city or outside the country. It terminated inside the building. Her father was either here or using a room linked directly to the chamber. Taeho admitted Elias possessed evidence capable of destroying Sora's empire and exposing crimes Taeho had inherited when he took control. Then why find him? Because I owe him more than my life. Before Nadine could demand what that meant, the main chamber doors sealed. Minho moved toward the control panel, but armed security appeared behind the glass partitions. Victor entered first, still immaculate in burgundy. Marcus followed him. The sight of Marcus brought back the ballroom so sharply, Nadine felt the microphone, the laughter, and every phone pointed at her. He smiled as though the night had finally returned to the plan. Victor ordered Taeho's men to lower their weapons. Minho did. Taeho did not move. Marcus offered Nadine a final bargain. He would restore her company, clear her name, and tell the public Victor had forced him to lie. In return, she would surrender the drives and accuse Taeho of kidnapping her. Nadine asked what would happen to Vanessa. Marcus glanced at the woman he had publicly chosen and called her replaceable. Vanessa's face did not change, but Nadine saw the hurt. Nadine stepped beside her. Then your deal failed before you finished speaking. Marcus's smile thinned. Marcus removed a printed bank record from his jacket and slid it across the control table. Nadine did not touch it until Minho verified the encrypted seal. The transfer was genuine. 3 weeks before the wedding, Taeho had paid Marcus through a private account. The amount matched the unexplained deposit Celeste remembered. The payment description named a public rejection arrangement. Nadine looked at Taeho. He did not question the document. He did not accuse Marcus of forging it. The man who had defended her before hundreds of people simply stood there. Marcus explained the instructions with obvious pleasure. The rejection had to be public. It had to mention Nadine's body. Vanessa had to be chosen in front of her. Nadine had to feel betrayed by the people she trusted and too ashamed to leave through the main entrance. Then Taeho would appear. Marcus had not improvised a single cruel word. Nadine's hand went cold around the onyx ring. The title moment that had felt like rescue was revealed as choreography. She pulled her hand away from Taeho. Tell me he is lying. Taeho's face became painfully still. The payment is real. Vanessa whispered Nadine's name, but Nadine could not look away from him. Did you pay him to call me too fat? Yes. The answer struck harder than Marcus's speech because it came without protection, excuse, or delay. Taeho said Marcus was telling the truth, but not all of it. Nadine told him there was no version of protection that required breaking her in public. He answered, I know what it cost you. Nadine's anger sharpened until it steadied her. No, you watched what it cost. That is different. Every wall monitor activated at once. Static cleared into a dim room containing a steel chair and a gray-haired man with his wrists apparently restrained. The narrow scar across his left cheek had deepened with age. The black onyx ring on his hand matched Nadine's. She forgot Marcus. She forgot the guards. Elias. The man lifted his head. Nadine, her father said, do not believe Taeho's next lie. Elias confirmed Taeho paid Marcus. He said Nadine would never have entered Kang protection while she trusted Marcus, Celeste, and the world built around Kora events. Taeho needed those bonds shattered in one public moment. Nadine asked whether Elias had ordered it. Her father looked towards someone outside the camera frame and avoided the answer. Then he told her to ask Taeho what he promised 12 years earlier in exchange for Mara's life. Taeho's fingers curled at his sides. I made the promise, he said. Nadine stepped toward Taeho. Is my mother alive? Before he could answer, Elias lowered his hands. The restraints slipped from his wrists and fell to the floor. He had never been secured to the chair. The camera widened. Sora walked into view beside him and placed one hand on his shoulder with the familiarity of an ally. Nadine's relief collapsed into dread. Her father was not Sora's prisoner. He was standing with her. Elias looked directly at Nadine and ordered her to surrender both drives. A seam appeared in the records chamber wall. The concealed steel door slid open, revealing the same room shown on the monitors. Elias walked out first. Sora followed. Nadine moved toward her father, but he stopped her with one raised hand. No embrace, no explanation for 12 years of grief. He told her Mara remained alive at another location, connected to medical support controlled by Sora. That support would end before morning unless Nadine fulfilled the old agreement. Nadine turned to Taeho. What did you promise them? Taeho moved between Nadine and Elias, placing his body in the path without touching her. His control had survived gunfire, betrayal, and Marcus's evidence. It finally broke. I promised them you. Sora explained that the wedding rejection was designed to deliver Nadine into Taeho's protection. Taeho was then supposed to deliver her to the Kang family before she accessed the archive. A red medical indicator began pulsing on the monitors. Nadine stood between the man who chose her and the father she had mourned. Elias told Nadine the drives could save Mara or destroy everyone in the chamber, but not both. Victor locked the facility doors. Marcus stepped toward Nadine, convinced humiliation had finally made her weak enough to control. He was wrong. Nadine closed her hand around the onyx ring and looked from Taeho to Elias, then to Sora. Sora's final words followed her into the cut. You have until sunrise to decide which liar gets to keep your mother alive. Comment Part 2 if you need to see which liar Nadine chooses and what Taeho's promise really means.